All right, welcome to another episode of Comic Book Squares. This is going to be another good one. We're going to have another interview with an artist this time. So, my name's Shane.
I'm Paul.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Mike. Let's get the show started.
Tyler, do me a favor, just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah, my name is Tyler Chintanner. I'm the co-founder, co-publisher of A Wave Blue World, which is our own little indie imprint. And our flagship title is a book that I'm writing, collaborating with a couple different artists. It's called Mezo. Volume 1 came out in we started in 2019, 2020, the book, Volume 1 came out, and just this month, I launched the first issue of Volume 2, Battle of Coban Rock. So I'm excited to have the second story arc out there and, continue the series.
Awesome. Hey, how did you get started in comics? Because you said you run this imprint as well. So was it the publishing that came first? Was it the idea to do comics? How did you get involved in this?
It was definitely the creative side of it. I grew up reading comics, mostly the mainstream, superhero, but got a little bit into indie. I think Turtles was actually Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and ElfQuest. So I was always that side of it, but I got more and more into it as I got older. I went to the Joe Kubert School, or the Kubert School, founded by Joe Kubert. And it was really there learning the trade and so much about the business that I was like, I really want to just have my own control. Like, I want to put out the book that I want to put out, how I want to put it out, and when. I mean, the more you learn about the business, and it's great working with publishers, but just so many of the decisions, I mean, they have to make. Like, they're the ones with the publishing schedule, and they know what they're trying to sell to the audience and what fits in with other books. So there's a lot of dance there. And it just seemed like the best way to do the things that I wanted to do without worrying about whether someone felt they'd be able to market it or anything like that was to form my own publishing studio. So I did that right out of the Kubert School in 2006. Working with an artist, doing some of the art myself, doing titles. I started kickstarting some things, anthologies mostly, so I started working with different creators. And it just sort of grew as like an imprint, mostly just from wanting to do it myself in my own way more than I'm trying to be like a big publishing house. Yeah, I just really, once you learn and start doing enough where you're like, oh, I know how to send things to the printer and I have a distribution deal with Diamond, then the systems are in place. So I've published some other creator-owned work. And like I said, done the anthologies, things like that. So it's fun. I try to not have too many plates spinning at once, especially since I want to spend most of my time writing and some time drawing. But it keeps you busy for sure.
Like, have you found that you're having to start to delegate some of the other publishing stuff to people because you want to focus on the writing more?
Yeah, so I have 4 like staff members right now.
Oh, there you go.
My production designer, P, is just absolutely like I feel like he's actually doing more of the publishing point at this point because he gets all the art pages and the letters and just packages it all together. He puts this together. So he's absolutely instrumental. Then I have a part-time marketing, social media person and sales person as well, just which really helps with me not having to do like all the calls, all the press releases, things like that, which does help. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tyler, I was,
That's awesome.
I was familiar with one of your works, American Terrorist. I actually saw that in my local comic shop, not far back, and I know you've got the trade now, I believe, right? The trade is available, like the whole series. So I guess what I wanted to ask you, looking at A Wave Blue World, there's a lot of works on there. What was the earliest work that you've got on there? Like, what is the first or the earliest or the first project that you worked on?
Yeah, it was a series called Adrenaline. That was my first comic out of the gate. It was like a kind of a spoof on the reality TV, like Amazing Race kind of craze, but also a look at, tourism, because it's like this race around the world for like, prizes and things like that, where they do different sort of extreme sports. We had like the scuba diving issue and the rock climbing one, and it was a fun way to kind of get those sort of action scenes that you don't see as much in comics. So that was, big learning experience. I even started that while I was still at the Kubert School, and I have some of Joe Kubert's what do you call it? Tracing paper corrections on some of the artwork there, which was really neat. There was that one, and then American Terrorist was my second, which was sort of a look at the state of American politics, which came out a while ago, but sort of the same thing.
That one actually made me think of I don't know if you guys saw it. Howard Chaykin a couple years ago did a series, called United States of Hysteria, and it's kind of that socio-political type thing, and that's kind of what drew me to that. I saw that, and I wondered where that fell in the order of things that you'd produced. But I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciated it. Yeah, that was fun. That was fun to do. For sure.
Well, it's great because again, looking into some of the other things that you've done, you really I love it because it's so diverse. You have so many different types of genres and stories and things on there. It's like you said, you get to own your stories and your characters. You can do whatever you want, and you can just whatever comes to mind. You guys can go ahead and do it. So I really like a lot of the things that you have on there, but. I know Mezo stuck out to Shane. I know he probably is chomping on the bit to talk about that, and I enjoyed that too. But go ahead, Shane.
Yeah. I mean, well, first of all, I just wanted to just compliment you on how unbelievably beautiful the book is. I mean, I was just I literally taken aback by just the color palette and the kind of the pastel skies and everything. It's just a gorgeous book. I mean, that's the kind of artwork I would love to buy a copy just to have on my wall because it's that beautiful. But yeah, Paul's absolutely right. I love kind of the Aztec the pyramids and stuff, and those images of her sliding down and stuff like that. It was just really spoke to me. What was the kind of impetus for wanting to set your story in that world?
Well, I can't take credit for it because, as I said, I graduated from for the idea to do that. I had wanted to do a fantasy story, and the idea actually came before I went to the Hubert School. I was working out in Africa. I was in Tanzania, Africa, and the idea actually came from me there. And I wanted to do like a fantasy story that had a very natural, trees, forests, that kind of thing. But I was sort of dancing around the idea. Well, there was an artist that graduated from the Kubert School that I really wanted to work with, Josh Zingerman, who was the first artist and did the concept designs. And so I met with him in New York City. We had lunch and talked about ideas. And I said, what kind of thing would you want to work on? And I would, love to collaborate on you. And I started talking about this fantasy idea I have. And he said, well, I would love to do that, but I think we should base the characters and the world off of, Mayan, Aztec, Mesoamerican type of thing, which then eventually that's how I came up with the name. I kicked around titles for so long, but that was like, oh, that's the way in, and it gave me something to research because I went out and got books on Aztec, Mayan history, read all about that. Now we chose to set it in a fantasy world because I didn't want to, have to. I don't deal with like the history. I mean, there's a time and place to tell that history, and some people have been doing that, which is great. But I just wanted to take, much like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings is sort of based off of the Anglo-Saxon medieval times. It's like, well, this is something you just base a fantasy story on, and just have lots of some sword and sorcery, but in a whole sort of different vein. So I just love that idea. And then when Josh left, I just want to make sure I got another artist who Val has picked up since number 3, because Josh is doing storyboards in Hollywood and stuff, so he's doing great.
Oh wow!
And he really just set us off the right tone, designing these characters and everything like that. And then Val picked up and sort of made it his own, and he did issues 3 through 5 of Volume 1, and he's now done Volume 2. So really happy to have found an artist to pick up where Josh left off, and like you said, beautiful stuff. And I just want to mention the colorist real fast. I mean, Doug, same thing. Doug
Yeah.
Garbach started us off just great, setting the palette. And then Tommy and Gab Contreras have picked up and, just been carrying the torch.
I was going to say it's fabulous. Some of the panels, where you're looking at where it's like an expanse of things. It's kind of like a wide shot where it's got it's kind of got the moons in the sky, and it's got all this just this architecture and everything that's hard to get right. Because a lot of times especially if you go back as far as some of us guys do, reading comics way back, it was stick to the panel, right? The little. But I love what you guys did. Even the layout of the book, it's like got momentum. You know what I mean? And I really dig that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been fun. Yeah, I really appreciate hearing that because,
Yep.
we just dug in and we're like, we're gonna make this huge project, and I knew it was gonna be big, and I'm thinking it's gonna be about 5 volumes. Which isn't that crazy in terms of comic books and the long running series that we've had.
Yeah.
To have about 25 issues by the time we're done. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So then with this Mezo story, Tyler, I guess at what point did you sound like you were kind of, you have a lot of great ideas, attending Kubert School, I'm sure, opened you up to a lot of obviously creative folks that you got to talk about. I guess what was it that finally said, you know what, let's do it? We've been thinking about it a while. Let's go ahead and move forward. Was there any particular situation that created that for you?
Well, that had been my sort of MO, is write a story, work with an artist to bring it to life. I had done, Adrenaline was 6 issues. American Terrorist was about that length. Then I did some short stories for anthologies, and I was just like, I just had the hunger to just do something. Like, I didn't even want it to end after 5 issues. Like, I want to start something that's like our world, our characters, and that's why I approached Josh. And I knew as soon as we talked about it, I knew we wanted to do it. But once his art came in, these character designs, I mean, if you see Fagor or Azalea, the helmets he drew for these people, their clothing, their world. There's some real gravitas to the characters. Like, yes, these are like simple people there's not like a lot of clothing, there's not a lot of technology, but they're not just running around in skimpy like loincloths or things like that. They're just the attire and everything is they just look wonderful. And as soon as I saw that, I knew we were going to do something, and I was like, okay, I'm in for it now. I just signed up for multi-year commitment here. So, and here we are, 2 of 5. So
that makes me wonder though, like, so you had the idea, you kind of wrote the script and you did these character designs. Did the art then help speak to what you were writing as you were going?
Oh,
like
absolutely.
Seeing
Some
the
of these
characters and all that.
Some of these characters I just invented because Josh drew them. And I was like, that guy looks great. I wonder what his story is. So I was throwing out ideas and what this world was, and he would just draw something, and he's like, I just drew this character. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to come up with a story for this guy. So, and no, it's been great. And I mean, even Fagor, like, he drew that guy. I had drawn like some just sort of generic henchmen. Sort of reminds me how Darth Vader must have started, because you know how he started off just being like kind of more like a henchman-y, but he became like the main guy. And I was just like, so this just big strong guy comes in and kills this guy or whatever, and he just went all in. But then he drew the helmet like completely covering his eyes, and I was just like, okay, so what's that supposed to mean? And he was like, oh, I don't know, I just like, maybe he can see through it or maybe he can't. I'm like, I don't think they had like high-tech visor, like that didn't seem like our world. So I'm just like, I'm just gonna make this guy blind. And like, all right, well, if he's blind, how is he gonna do all this stuff? And that tied in towards the story of the eclipse. I'm like, okay, well, that's how he went blind, staring at the eclipse.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But then also the power, the whole Zentali with their celestial seed, and the different, one has the strength, one has the sight, one has the healing ability. All right, well, if the guy when he was blinded, I'm spoiler here. If you want me to say it, it's like, well, if the healing guy was the guy that didn't show up and caused all the problem, that was the catalyst. So if the guy with the sight power and the strength power tried to heal this boy, well, then he'd grow up to be this blind, sixth sense, strong kind of like being. And so they ended up creating the monster that would be like the main bad guy, just out of that happening.
That's awesome.
That's interesting. I want to. Do you mind if I jump in real quick here, guys? I got a quick question about. So you had mentioned that you want this to be a 5-volume piece, and I think that's kind of interesting in going at this idea of not creating a series that's just going to be like a Spider-Man that just goes on till indefinitely for the end of time. And I think about that in terms of like, television shows too. You have like a sitcom that is more like a regular series that's just going to go 32 seasons or whatever it is. Or you have a story to tell like a Breaking Bad where it's only going to be 5 seasons. So what was the thought process behind knowing that this is one story that you want to tell, even though it's a longer piece over 5 volumes, but it's one complete piece that you want to tell?
Well, yes. I mean, I knew I wanted to really get into something, not that like one volume would be it and moving on to the other thing, next thing. But I also didn't want it to be so long that it was just continuing. And, I mean, it might get to the point that I'm like, oh, I'm going to really miss this when it's over. But again, I don't want to bite off more than I can chew. Like I want it to be leading towards something, right? And the storyline is the eclipse. This next eclipse is coming, and we're seeing what happened in the last one. So that's the ticking clock of this volume, and that's what will happen at volume 5, and that will be the conclusion. Should I decide to tell other stories in this world, still open, but we know that this, the reader will know we're leading towards something. I'm not just gonna like keep delaying it or not know how it's going to end or anything like that.
I mean, for me, I think it's super smart, just because, especially from an indie publisher standpoint, that, if somebody's, going to the comic shop and, you buy in 5 or 6 titles and they're $5 a piece, every single week, you add another one to your list, all of a sudden it can get kind of spendy. But if you know that you're going to be telling a story that takes place over 5 volumes, I think it's easier for people to digest and say, oh, I know what I can invest in for this 5-story arc that I want to see. Mm-hmm. I think it's smart.
Yeah, that's what
absolutely.
And the other thing is, like, some of these stories, like I've read some that seem like they have the first arc, they finish, and you're like, that was a good story, and then they keep going, and then it just goes, maybe it goes downhill or off kilter from where you were really, like, why you were really interested in it in the first place. So, and maybe it's because it's a different writer or what have you, or they lost interest too. So, yeah. So I think that's
some of it, when you pitch to a publisher, and this goes back to why I just want to do my own thing, you don't know if you'll get the green light for volume 2, right?
Right.
And then if it does well, they're like, well, just keep on going as long as you can, or you know, whatever, or you just don't know when they're going to pull the rug from under you. Right. So you kind of just have to do it 5 issues by 5 issues and just hope for the best. So, yeah.
I mean, again, looking at all the work that you guys have on, on Away Blue World, all these different stories that are there. To Shane's point, I think it's a great idea to sort of have an arc in mind, a beginning, a middle, and an end. If you wanted to, you could always come back to a character if something re-inspires you, but you can close it knowing that you did it the way you wanted to do it, and then now you're on to the next story.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where my next question leads is, where do you get the inspiration for some of these stories? I know, like, for Mezo, you talked about that a little bit, but for some of the other, like Bloody Hell, I really, that one intrigues me big time. The whole Viking thing and all that. Obviously, American Terrorist, and there's a couple others. So where does the inspiration come for some of these stories?
Man, I mean, they come into my head. I mean, it's just processing. I mean, I love to just, like I mentioned with like Mezo, just sitting out there. It's the noise of the world, that like, it's people talk about whether it's creative is just getting to work or inspiration or whatever, and you need to have a bit of both. But the one thing, like, if you want to get inspiration and you want your mind to sort of wander, what you have to at least do is block out all the noise of just your daily life. And so, if you can go for a walk, or some ideas come to you in the shower, out in the woods, it's because you're blocking out the distractions, the things that keep your mind from having that internal wheel moving. So that's where they come from. And then I'll just come up and I'll be like, I just want to do a story about this, and you get that little nugget, and then you just sort of have to build out around that, right?
Sure.
And so that's
and I would imagine, you share it with your collaborators. You mention it to one of your artists, they start throwing things down, and that just inspires you even more because you see they put on paper what you were talking about, and you're like, let's keep doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's such back and forth with an artist, and that's why I love to, like, you don't give them too much yet, and don't write too far ahead. Like, here, try this out,
Sure.
and then see what comes back.
Yeah,
and then
you
just be like, it's almost like cheating off of somebody's paper or something. Like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I meant there. And just keep writing the rest, like, perfect. Yeah, that's where I was going with this.
Well, looking over
their shoulder. What are you doing there? Yeah, that's right.
I mean, that's the fantastic thing about comic books as an art form is just the collaborative nature. You can bounce off of each other. From, like you said, from the colorist to the artist, to the writing, to all of it comes together to create this really amazing piece.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if I can kind of,
there's a lot.
Sorry.
Oh, please.
Go ahead, Tyler. Go ahead.
Do it, Mike.
Oh.
No, I was just sort of keeping it going. So if you got a question.
Oh, yeah. Well, you were talking about, kind of inspiration, kind of finding, filtering things out and stuff like that. So I guess, it sounds like you've had some wonderful opportunities in your travels and kind of, historically where you've met some incredible people. I guess, is there anyone that has kind of inspired you or influenced some of your work, or is that just kind of, again, are you focused in on anyone in particular, or, just curious as to if anyone perhaps does that for you, kind of gives you that inspiration?
Well, as I mentioned, it was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that, like, first made me, like, search out a comic book shop. I had been picking them off the spinner rack, at the drugstore, and reading the Marvel stuff. And somebody brought in a Turtles comic at school one day, and this was at fourth, fifth grade. And I was just like, I need to find this, and made my mom drive me to this comic shop where I just go in this whole world of, like, it's just a room of comics. Just blew my mind. And so that was a big jump for me. And ElfQuest, the same thing. That was right around the same time. But they were creators that just did their own thing, and Wendy and Richard Denny and Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird. Yeah, they just had an idea.
Yeah.
It was a crazy idea, and they just built this world. And look what we still have it today. Turtles and ElfQuest. And beyond that, going to the Kubert School, Joe is such an innovator too. He did work for DC and stuff, but I mean, he opened his own school. He had his own studio. He was just always just trying new things and working until his 80s too, which is just gives me hope that I want to just keep on doing this stuff,
for sure,
forever, just staying relevant and coming up with new ideas.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Sure.
That's great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
go ahead.
Oh,
sorry, Ben. Go ahead, man.
So you went to the Kubert School. Did you draw there as well? Did you do I'm sorry, because you were out as a writer. What made you? I'm sorry. I'm jumping around on my question, but basically, what I'm trying to ask is, what made you choose writing instead of just the art side of it for comics?
Well, drawing is very hard, and it's time consuming, and it's hard to do that and everything else. Yes. I mean, I was not super advanced when I went to the school. I mean, there was entry level first year students better than me. I kept working on my art for the 3 years I was there, and I was just okay. At the end, my portfolio was decent, and I definitely could have seen a world where I just kept on working at it. And I draw. I'm mostly just drawing sketches and if I have a crazy idea for the comic, I'm like, oh, this is what it should look like basically, and things like that. Yeah. But I don't know, like, once I started self-publishing, and in my mind I was going to do everything, right? I was going to, I'll just publish it, draw it, right? All this stuff. But something had to give. And drawing is just the most full time, and you've got to be really good. And I just, I don't really have the chops for it. I feel like I could do it if I dedicated 6 to 8 hours a day, but I don't have the time to do that if I want to write. And I love writing. I love coming up with these stories. That was always the idea. I mean, I wasn't going to art school because I just wanted to be the artist no matter what I was an artist for. She's like, no, I want to create comic books. So, and I want to create my own. So writing and publishing is required for that. So I just started working with artists, and if they're great, if they're happy spending 8 hours a day drawing my stories, I'm like, that's wonderful. You just keep on. Thank you for that. So
doing it. Yeah,
I just appreciate that. Yeah.
Well,
More time to write.
Right. So, and that's where I was going to go, Tyler. Not just you have to drop any bombs or nuggets here, but what's next for you? I see the the scope of work that you have. Is there something kind of rolling through your brain now that you want to get laid down and get on out there? Or?
Too many things. I have to stop myself from starting these projects because I have a 5-volume series. I did a YA graphic novel that came out last year, The Orphan King, which was a spin on that. I would love to do. That's multi-volume. I don't even know what volume, because that could be more. He's more of a wandering character story.
Sure.
So that could go on forever, or it could be 2 more volumes. I want to do more of that. I've got other ideas. I have to I almost hired an artist for one of them, and then I was just like, I don't even have time to write this. I'm like, I'm sorry, we talked about it, but it's not like your contracts were signed or anything. But I'm just like, it's a good idea, but it's going to be like a couple of years from now when I get to that. So I come up with too many ideas.
That's awesome.
Ideas are easy in some sense. It's sitting down and writing them, which is why, again, I just like, all right, file these away and I'll get to them. So no, I have the next 20. Yeah.
It's the originality, though. I mean, that's we've reviewed some books and we've talked to some creators, and everybody takes a little bit from what they've seen and heard in the past, right? Just a little bit. It's how much of a twist can you put on that and make it your own? And that's what I'm saying is with your work, a lot of that I haven't seen before. It's a lot of good original ideas that I think the big two would love to do. But it's a niche audience. It's people like us that have been around long enough and have seen so many different works of art. And I love Spidey, but I'm just not ready to read Spidey every stinking month, regardless of what he's doing. Right? I want to see something else, and you guys are doing that. So how else do you get the word out? Obviously, you're in New York, big state, but do you do the big cons, little cons? How do you? Obviously you have a social media presence, but
yeah. We are never huge in the conventions. I would definitely go to some and just try to go big. I started on an artist alley table, small press, booth space, things like that. I just pick the shows that I like to do. New York Comic Con, Heroes Con, I love in Charlotte. I'm doing that next month. I used to do Emerald City Comic Con, but I don't know about flying right now. And also, as my booth got bigger, it's so expensive to fly that stuff out or set it up. Right. I'm basically just in a driving, I'll drive to Charlotte, up to Massachusetts, things like that. But I'd like to do 2 or 3. Baltimore, I'm doing Baltimore again. That's a really good show. Increase social media, try my best with that. I'm not great at it. It's fun for a little bit, but I'm not great at social media, but just posting the artwork and things like that. And then just reaching out to news sites, streams, podcasts, just being willing and eager to come just talk about my stuff. I don't think there's an exact formula for how you do it. I think it mostly comes down to, does your book appeal to people? They will find it. You have to do some of that work, of course, but if you don't have the content, that's not going to approach. It doesn't matter if you get it out on social media or put in somebody's face at a convention if it's not what they want to read.
Right. Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do with this show is just, if any way that we can help, any way that we can help you build that audience and create a little bit more of an outreach. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Speaking of which, Speaking of which, do you want to tell people how they can find your work, how they can start buying up Mezo and all the other comics? Where should they go?
Well, we have a website, awbw.com. I may have made the title of my company ridiculously long and confusing, but at least the website is just 4 letters, awbw.com. It's funny we didn't talk about that because I was in my second year at the Kubert School and I just wanted to slap a logo on my homework assignment, and I twisted Brave New World to a Wave Blue World. And it honestly started as like a silly homework assignment. But then I got known for that. And then, like I said, I created Adrenaline by that. So it had that logo on it. And
That's awesome.
I sent back in the day. So Stephen, do you know Stephen Grant
Yes,
wrote The Whisper?
Whisper,
He used
yep.
to do like a review thing. And I sent him Adrenaline and he didn't like it very much, but he's like, but I love the title. I mean, he gave it like a lukewarm review, but I mean, he loved the company name, and I was like, well, that's it. Now I'm sticking with it. So on social media, we are a Wave Blue World at a Wave Blue World. Don't forget the A comes first. I wanted to alphabetically have that in there. But the URL is just AWBW, just like my shirt, AWBW.com. You can buy the stuff directly from there. I send it out. I'm really good at packing. I sign it myself, so that's, you can do the option on our website. Do you want it signed by me?
I know, I saw that, free of charge.
No extra charge. Yeah, I mean, why would I charge? Order from me instead of Amazon.
That's excellent, though.
Yeah,
that's excellent, though. I mean, that really adds a touch to it. I went to a Northwest Indiana Comic-Con about 2 months ago. I'm in the Chicago area, and I hit some of the indie tables. I didn't want to go to the bigger tables. I hit the indie tables, and guys were just all too willing to start talking about their stuff. And they're like, "Hey, you want me to sign that?" I said, "Yeah, sure, that's great," And they just, and
That's awesome.
I thought it was great.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's great about being my stuff.
Because you can make that choice and don't have to answer to somebody else for doing it.
That's right.
Exactly.
For doing
it. All right.
So I was going to say, we'll put in the description and the show notes and stuff the link to AWBW and all that. So anybody watching or listening, you can just take a look there and click over and find all of Tyler's books and Wave Blue World's books.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So before we end, Tyler, I just got to say, my man, you have put together a fantastic team. Again, your adventures, your passion for it. I mean, looking through your issues, they are, as Shane mentioned earlier, they are beautiful. Mm-hmm. It is a beautiful, beautiful book. Every little aspect, the lettering, the coloring, just the layout, the writing that you've done, beautiful books, just beautiful. I mean, you've done, for those that haven't found you yet, I hope they do find you, and I hope they find you quickly, because getting in now and seeing where you're going to take all of your ideas and all those creative dimensional things that you've got in your head, you're doing a fantastic, beautiful job. So I just wanted to
appreciate hearing
make
that.
note of that.
It's really nice to hear.
Yep.
I 100% agree, Mike. That, I mean, hopefully this will bring some new viewers to your work, because it is one of those pieces of gold that people aren't even aware of. It's a beautiful piece.
Yep.
Yeah, we're glad we found it.
Yes.
And
let
us know if anybody on the creative team, be interested in popping on too and talking about their side of the work and all that. We'd be happy to talk to them.
Okay. Yeah, I'll reach out to them, because I would love for them to get, I end up talking about the series so much, and I make sure to give, proper credits and to my artists and stuff, but I really want more people to know about their work too. So I will let them know.
Well, I know Shane wants to fawn over the artist, so.
Instead of a meeting link, he's going to send flowers and candy. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, cool. Well, thanks so much for doing this, Tyler. I really appreciate it. This was fantastic. Great talking to you, and great getting a chance to meet you. So appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was great talking to all of you.
So we absolutely love bringing original stuff to you guys. This last interview was just fantastic, a beautiful piece of art that you really should seek out. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and notification button so we can keep bringing you content like this, and we'll see you on the next one.